Vice President Joe Biden creating controversy, saying rejecting President Obama's jobs bill would lead to more violent crime in this country, including murder and rape. Are Biden's facts real or fear tactics? Let's bring in our power panel. Mercedes Colwin, Fox News legal analyst, Mary Walter, radio talk show host, and Lise Wheel, Fox News legal analyst. Thank you all for joining us. So he was citing crime statistics in Flint, where the number of officers went from 201 to 132, and during that time, murder did go up, but rape actually went down. Biden later saying that Flint officials mistakenly gave him the stats for all sexual offenses, not just rape. But Lisa,
bundled them together, right? No, I don't like the scare tactic part of this because, I mean, rape is one of the most, obviously, the most serious crimes ever. And to make it political like this, which clearly he's trying to make it. If you don't pass, I mean, it's, you know, if you don't do this, then all these bad things are going to happen. And that's really demeaning towards women.
Yeah. Mary Walters, you know, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney responded,
Right.
It would be hard to find anyone who doesn't agree with the simple equation that fewer police officers on the street has a direct effect on the crime rate.
You know, and I think that that's up for grabs. I think a lot of it depends on where you live. Obviously, you know, I live in a tiny little town, 1.1 square miles. We have 2 officers on duty at any given time. That's it. We don't have a lot of crime. So you could have 1 officer on duty, and I don't think our crime rate's going to skyrocket. So I think a lot of it depends on where you live. But what bothers me about this is you know, Biden says so many things that are just so out there, and he gets a free pass, yet. Can you imagine if Sarah Palin had said something like that?
Not fact-based.
Oh my gosh, they would have been all over her. And they're also going after Herman Cain and dissecting everything Herman Cain has had to say, as is he ready for prime time?
We want to stick with this topic. I want to get
What do you
Mercedes
think, Mercedes?
No, I mean, certainly, and I agree with Lise. I mean, it's such outrageous to talk about rape in this context.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously scare tactics, and then get your empirical data right. If you're going to make those types of assumptions, those types of statements, then get it right. And don't do it in a way to really scare all of us.
All right, we want to move on. Our second topic, the so-called misery index. It rose last month to its highest point in 28 years. It's a mathematical equation. It's the sum of the country's inflation and unemployment rates, which currently add up to 13, and that is the highest since 1983. Mercedes, we'll start with you this time. A sign that the recovery is just not being felt?
No, exactly right. I mean, there's so many. You see the occupiers in Wall Street. People are desperate. They're out of work. We get tons of resumes a week. Individuals that have graduate degrees, individuals that were in the workforce 20+ years, now they're out in the streets. They can't make their mortgages. They can't, their homes are in foreclosure. There's a level of desperation, and we see it everywhere. And frankly, there isn't anyone out there saying, the recovery's on the way. Hang tight. We're going to be fine.
No, there's no good news around the corner. And so I think that does lead into that idea, that misery index, that, okay, you know, everyone goes through a tough time. We all have issues, personal, family, work, money, all of that. But then you always think, okay, tomorrow will be a better day. And when it's not forecasted to be a better day for a long, long time, and even our children are worried about what kind of benefits are they going to be getting, what kind of, you know, where are they going to be going, what can we provide for them? That's what's scary and leads to that misery.
But don't you think, and not to be Debbie Downer here, but when you look at misery in this country, all those people who are complaining that they're so miserable, they don't have jobs, they're doing it on their iPads, their phones, they're eating gourmet food down there. I mean, come on, compared to other countries, our misery is a joke compared to some other places.
There was a recent study on poverty that found that in the United States, people who are classified as below the poverty level have flat screen TVs and, like you said, iPads and whatnot. But there are some people now who say they have to give up their car because they can't afford the gas, and they are cutting back on.
Right, they give up their car because they can't afford the gas, but they still have food compared to other countries. Poor people don't have food.
Everything is relative.
We just don't know what we don't know what tough is.
Think about these folks that are out there that are working in the workforce 20, 30 years, and they're out of work. I mean, I know one attorney who's been practicing 30 years. You know where he works now? Home Depot.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't sustain a job in the workforce.
But you know what? At least he's going to Home Depot and he's getting that job.
And he's working.
Yeah, what angers me is people that say this sort of entitlement, we should have everything because of our degree or whatever. And it's like, wait a second, times change. You need to adapt to that change.
Yeah,
go
do
work
what you have to do and wait for it to turn around. All right, we have a lot more topics to cover. We're going to take a break now. Coming up, if the newlywed couple, Kate and Will, have a son, he would become the king after his father, but what if they have a daughter? Under a 300-year-old rule, she would have to defer the throne to her brother, but that may change soon. Coming up. Back with our power panel, Mercedes Colwin, Mary Walter, and Lise Wheel. And our next topic, an elementary school in Massachusetts says 3 fall holidays are insensitive. The principal, Ann Foley, sent home a memo to parents saying they should be careful in marking, in particular, Columbus Day, saying when we were young, we might have been able to claim ignorance of the atrocities that Christopher Columbus committed against the indigenous peoples, but we can no longer do so. And many of us celebrating this person is an insult to the people he annihilated. And she's also unhappy with Thanksgiving and Halloween. But let's start with Christopher Columbus, Mary.
Well, you know, because not enough of our children are on antidepressants, so we should just, let's just make them miserable all the time. Why? I don't understand. Like, why do we laden our children with adult views on things? They're kids. Let them make the little hand turkeys in art. Let them wear their Halloween costumes.
No one talks about that.
Why isn't anything age appropriate anymore?
Who talks about the annihilation of the indigenous people? No one talks about it. You're exactly right, Mary. They're talking about giving thanks for your blessings.
Right,
Thank you, God, for the food we're about to eat. It's family time.
Right.
No one talks about the Christopher Columbus Native American.
There are 3 separate, there's Thanksgiving, and she's got her issues with that. There's a Christopher Columbus who she's clearly not happy with. And then there's Halloween, where the children are banned from wearing their Halloween costumes to school. Frankly, I'm not sure if kids really need to wear the costumes to class. I mean, they wear them later on.
As long as it's
she says it's a distraction.
Over the top, inappropriate, as long as the girls aren't being, too wild, the boys aren't being too wild. What's really wrong with it? It's little kids trick-or-treating, and we moms get to go out there and hold their legs.
Costumes to trick-or-treat with my kids.
After school, though. They can still trick-or-treat after school. I mean, there are other schools
what are you
that
going to do?
ban
You
it
take
during class.
Valentine's Day away because that's a religious
No, everyone
thing?
has to get a Valentine. You can't just give it to certain kids. You have to give one to everybody.
Well, I'm okay.
Because that's the way real love
I'm
works.
okay with the total Valentine's Day. I want Valentine's.
Not everybody gets a Valentine in the real world. They should learn that young.
Valentine's Day is a cruel holiday. All right, yes. Yeah, that's right. Debbie Downer still. All right, moving on. We've got a Pittsburgh Steeler who left a game injured, and when he returned, he borrowed a cell phone from his trainer to call his wife from the sidelines to tell her he did not have a concussion. Well, cell phones are banned from the bench, and this player, Troy Polamalu, was fined $10,000. Mercedes?
Isn't that outrageous? I mean, all he wants to do is to make sure that his wife and kids know Daddy and your hubby are okay. Don't worry about it. I'm absolutely fine, especially with all the injuries in the NFL. How many folks have had
more
that?
men that would call in and check in like that and say, I'm fine, sweetie, I'm thinking about you. I'd so much rather prefer that, and for them to use no judgment and just say, or complete lack of judgment, you're banned and you're going to be having to pay that fine because you called home.
There have to be some flexibility.
We should point out that this resulted from a thing in 2003 where a New Orleans player, Joe Horn, scored a touchdown and then pulled his phone out from behind a post and pretended to make a call. And he was fined $30,000. But Mary, is that a completely different situation?
You know, what cracks me up is I know there are rules. I get that. But the NFL or any professional sports league actually enforcing rules, doesn't it seem to be a tad hypocritical? You know, considering the list of some of the offenses some of these guys have on their record.
You can kill your dog, kill all these dogs, but we're going to give you a multi-million-dollar contract.
Because you're going to fine you $10,000 if you call home and tell wife and kids that you're okay.
He's not allowed to have a cell phone on the sidelines, and he did, but he was afraid that his wife saw the play and would be worried
and be scared.
Here's a good role model, so they fine him. But go out, get a DWI, assault and battery. No problem.
Moving on. If the future king and queen of England have a daughter and then a son, that son would leapfrog the girl in succeeding the throne. But change could be in the air to this 300-year-old succession rule. Prime Minister David Cameron floating the idea to leaders of the other Commonwealth countries coming up. They have a summit where they are talking about overturning this rule. And the result, Lise, would be that if Kate and Wills had a daughter first and then some sons, the daughter would be monarch.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, come into the 20th century, the 21st century, absolutely. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know history and all of that, fine, I got it. But it doesn't make sense. You're going to, so this poor daughter is not going to be able to be the queen when she should be the monarch? Absolutely.
Mercedes
Change that
Queen
law.
Elizabeth has come in favor, not surprisingly.
Oh,
Right.
sure. And she succeeded the throne, although she wasn't married at the time. She obviously ascended to the throne, but good
had
for
no brothers.
her.
She had no
She didn't have any
brothers.
brothers,
Right.
but good for her that she said absolutely. And I have to tell you, I think it's the whole Middleton effect. I think that Kate has eclipsed the entire monarchy.
Middleton effect.
And I think they look at this and say, if she has a daughter, bravo, make her the queen.
All right, we're going to have to thank you all and end it there. This was so much fun.
And I wasn't going to be Debbie
Mercedes
Downer either.
Debbie Downer. Oh, no, I know. You didn't get in your last downer point. All right, thank you all for joining us. Craig,
Thank you.
I'm with you guys. I vote for the queens over the kings. I like the queens over the kings. I really do. Maybe the sexism in Great Britain has led to the demise of the empire.